can unmute us. Ready? All right, good evening. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and thank you. All right, roll call vote, please, Chandra.
Alderman Alder?
Here.
There you are.
Somewhere you are.
I'm
Alderman
here
Flores?
somewhere.
Here.
Alderman Galloway?
Here.
Alderman Poston?
Here.
Alderman Schaefer?
Here.
Alderman Smith?
Here.
We have 6 aldermen present. We have a quorum.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of January the 4th?
Your Honor, 1 second.
Yes, sir.
I had a couple corrections to those.
All right, please.
On item number 2, Bill 3211, I was a-
3211, okay, yes,
I was a nay on that.
yes.
And then
Okay.
I also noticed that Alderman Schaefer is listed as absent, but shown as voting.
Okay, that's true, but you showed up just a few minutes late, didn't you, Alderman Schaefer, last week?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm not shaming you, I'm just for the record. Okay.
I feel shame.
So would you make a notation of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve with corrections.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a second? Motion made by Poston, seconded by Smith to approve the minutes. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, new reading bills. Bill 3216. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we place Bill 3216 on its first reading by title and short description only, please.
Motion made by Smith, seconded by Poston to put Bill 3216 on its first reading. All in favor? All right, Ms. Calloway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, calling for and giving notice of a general municipal election to be held on April 6, 2021, to elect a mayor and alderman for wards 1, 2, and 3.
All right, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I understand from the clerk that there are no additions to the ballot today, which was after it was posted on Friday, so the ballot is correct as it stands. But we do need to expedite this and get it to the county clerk's office. So, Mr. Smith, would you do the honors?
Yes, sir. I move that we place Bill 3216 on its second reading by title and description only, please.
Motion made by Smith, seconded by Poston. Put Bill 3216 on its second reading. All in favor? Ms. Calloway.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, calling for and giving notice of a general municipal election to be held on April 6, 2021, to elect a mayor and alderman for wards 1, 2, and 3.
All right, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we adopt Bill 3216 as ordinance 21-003.
Motion made by Smith, seconded by Poston to adopt Bill 3216, ordinance 21003. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Poston?
Aye.
Alderman Galloway?
Muted.
Bruce, can you unmute? Can you unmute yourself, Bruce, so we can vote?
I am.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Smith?
Aye.
Alderman Flores?
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer?
Aye.
Alderman Alder?
Aye.
We have 6 aye votes. Motion carries.
Okay, very fine. Bill 3217, Mr. Schaefer.
I would move that bill number 3217 be read by short description and title only.
Motion made by Schaefer, seconded by Smith to put Bill 3217 on its first reading by title only. All in favor? Ms. Calloway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the municipal code of the City of Ozark, Missouri, Chapter 405, zoning regulations, Article 2, Use Regulations by Zoning District, Section 405-290, Zoning District C2, General Commercial District, by adding language to regulate crematories.
All right, I think we're all familiar with that, but Mr. Smith, do you have any comments?
Yes, well, I'd just like to bring the board up to speed. As you all may recall, several months ago, we had a proposed ordinance in front of you all to consider for a crematory in industrial zoning districts. At that time, the ordinance was tabled. And so since that time, staff has been asked to consider that ordinance again. But in considering that ordinance for industrial, we also took the opportunity to look at the option of having a crematory as a conditional use allowance in other zoning districts, such as this one, the commercial and office warehousing. So in front of you guys, this first ordinance on the agenda is the allowance of crematories in commercial zoning districts. And following this, and you'll see the one for industrial and office warehousing. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from council, from the board? All right, I don't, there aren't any people from the public here, but there is a Zoom participant. Any comments from the Zoom participants? It is a public hearing. All right, if not, we will hold that bill over to the next meeting, first meeting in February. All right, Bill 3128, Mr. Schaefer.
Your Honor, I would move that bill number 3218 be read by short description and title only.
Motion made by Alderman Schaefer, seconded by Alderman Poston to put Bill 3218 on its first reading by title only. All in favor? All right, Ms. Galloway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the Municipal Code, Chapter 405, Zoning Regulations, Article 2, Use Regulations by Zoning District, Section 405-360, Zoning District I-1 Industrial District, by adding language to regulate crematories.
All right, Mr. Smith, any further comments? I'm sorry, what?
I think we were, okay.
The frame froze for a minute and we didn't get your answer. Any comments, Mr. Smith?
Happy to answer any questions if you guys have, but nothing additional to add.
All right. Any questions from the board? All right, if not, we'll hold this over to the first meeting in February. Mr. Schaefer, 3219.
Your Honor, I would move that bill number 3219 be read by short description and title only.
All right, motion made by Alderman Schaefer, seconded by Alderman Poston, put Bill 3219 on its first reading. All in favor? All right, Ms. Galloway.
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the Municipal Code, Chapter 405, Zoning Regulations, District OW Office Warehouse, by adding language to regulate crematories.
All right, board, any questions or comments? Mr. Smith, no further comment, I assume?
No.
All right, then we will hold this over to the first meeting in February. Man, you think there was a football game tonight? All right, Mr. Poston, Bill 3.
Yes, Your Honor, I move that we read Bill 3220 by title and short description.
Motion made by Alderman Poston, seconded by Alderman Smith to put Bill 3220 on its first reading. All in favor? All right, Ms. Galloway.
An ordinance of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Ozark, Missouri, amending the Municipal Code, Chapter 615, Peddlers, Charitable Solicitors, Itinerant Vendors, Street Vendors, and Concession Trailers.
All right, any comments, Mr. Smith?
Yes, a lot of this is in light of the pandemic. What has been brought to staff's attention is currently we allow, in the primary revisions of this ordinance for consideration, we allow itinerant vendors and concession trailers in the C2 zoning districts only. What has happened in the last few months is we have seen a lot of interest in allowing these concession trailer type vendors in either residential neighborhoods or even the C4 downtown zoning district. And so what staff has done is we are proposing to amend this ordinance to allow those or accommodate itinerant vendors and concession trailers in additional zoning districts. So in the single family areas, what we've found is it would be a great opportunity to allow these to occur. And in what would be the common areas or maybe at the pool house of the subdivision. We do not want to allow these on the streets or in the right of way, but we'd allow them the opportunity to set up in the common areas of the subdivision, granted that they have approval from the homeowners association. In addition, we've considered allowing these in the other zoning districts such as C4 and industrial as well. So we thought this revision would open up the opportunity to allow these concession trailers or itinerant vendors in additional locations throughout the city and not just in C2. In addition to that, we have clarified some of the locations of these to make sure they're not occupying buffer yards or required detention basins or setbacks and so forth. And also making sure they do provide some kind of accessibility or ADA access based on what would be required by a code. And then also just to clarifying the use of these concession trailers and street vendors so that they do not, I guess, take up the right-of-way spaces, but at the same time, they also allow for the furnishing, the side amenities such as tables or seating or trash receptacles. Some of those items that would be a supporting use for the concession vehicle. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, board, yes, Ms. Alderman.
Cameron, how would that work in a residential area that didn't have a clubhouse or a pool?
Then if there is no designated common area or HOA owned property, then there wouldn't be an area for them to set up and take space. So some of those older subdivisions that might not have a pool space or a common green space, there just would not be an opportunity for those.
So the thought is not allowing them on the public street to set up at all.
That's correct. We do not want to allow them to set up in public right of way or on the street.
All right, yes, Mr. Poston.
Cameron, why limit it to just single family and two family? Why not all multifamily?
I don't think we're limiting to those as well. I think in single family, what we're just noting was the fact that in those single and two family, they're utilizing a common area or a pool house. In the multifamily, there's a lot of cases, those are all private parking lots, so they could occur in the parking lot as long as they're not taking up the drive aisles. Okay. But in those multifamily zone R3 or R4, a lot of cases, there's no public streets internally. Those are just private parking areas. So we are allowing those in there, but in those situations, there's not necessarily a right of way just to prevent them from parking in the right of way space.
And I didn't see, there's no expiration to this. I mean, if a vendor's allowed to set up, they could be there indefinitely.
That would be based on the vendor's license that they'd also get in addition to this under what the city clerk issues for the peddler's license or the itinerant vendor's license.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. Cameron, does this allow for anything in the downtown area, specifically
yes,
around the square?
That's why we clarified to allow it in the C4 as well.
Okay.
However, keep in mind, itinerant vendors and concession trailers are not to be on public right of way. The street vendors are still allowed to be in the downtown area of C4, such as the street carts or the little concession carts.
All right, Ms. Alderman.
So in the downtown area, how would that work? I mean, because that's a city street, but you're allowing them.
No, so in downtown areas, in such cases, they could occur on a parking lot of a private property owner. We recently even had one for the city for themselves. They're doing a little hot dog trailer for some of the public works staff, and by ordinance, we couldn't even permit that because it was in a C4 zoning district. So in the downtown in the C4s or any other zoning district in the downtown area, they can still occur on private property as long as the owner gives permission for those.
Okay, and then another question, follow-up question to the housing divisions that like the POAs, the clubhouses. Do they have to ask to go there? Or can they just choose on a Saturday to go over and set up? Do they have to get permission?
For our ordinance, they would have to provide a written letter of approval. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody might not just set up over the weekend and they're gone before we can catch anything, basically, through code enforcement. But no, for the ordinance, to achieve the requirements of the ordinance, they would have to provide some kind of approval documentation.
And who would the approval be from?
Either the HOA president or the current property owner if there's not an active HOA member.
So if it was a pool area or, okay. Like an apartment complex that has a pool, can they go in there?
They could, in those situations, they could just address it with the property owner, and they could actually occur in the parking stalls as long as they're not impeding the drive lane or the travel lane of the vehicles. In some cases, there might be some excess parking stalls that may not be utilized.
Right.
To the property owner to determine if they're willing to give up a stall or two over a period of
So
time.
in that case, it would be the property owner, or would it be the manager of the apartment complex, or?
It comes down to the property owner. That doesn't mean that the manager might not coordinate it, but the actual letter would have to be signed or approved by the property owner.
Okay, okay, thanks.
All right, any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, if not, we will hold that over to the first meeting in February. All right, Bill 3221, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we place Bill 3221 on its first reading by title and description only, please.
Motion made by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Galloway. Put Bill 3221 on its first reading. All in favor? Ms. Galloway?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, proposing an increase to the sewer connection fee by 3.5% pursuant to City Code Section 71570 connection fees.
All right, now I'm going to ask Mr. Childers to give a brief synopsis of this and the background, the history, and then we'll open it for a formal public hearing. So, Mr. Childers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back in 2005, the city of Ozark put a ballot question to the voters, and the voters approved in 2005 for the city of Ozark to borrow funds in the form of bonds to be able to make certain sewer improvements for the city of Ozark. In order to do that, rates were established to be able to pay back that bond debt. And that process of paying that back, it was also established by ordinance that each year the sewer connection fees to pay back that bond debt would be increased by 3.5% unless otherwise decided upon by the Board of Aldermen that increase should not occur. So each year the Board of Aldermen in the month of January shall make the determination whether or not to allow for the 3.5% increase to move forward or for the 3.5% increase to not move forward. So that's what you got before you tonight. It is really an ordinance that you're looking at is your decision to decide whether you do not want that 3.5% increase to go forward, because by ordinance as it is established, that would go into effect. So unless otherwise decided upon by the board. That makes sense?
Yeah. It looks like Mr. Parsons is ready for a little bit of history on the current impact fee structure. Mr. Parsons, if you want to make some comments on that, I'm sure this would be the right time.
Yeah, recently we walked through these back in December, kind of showing you the impact fees of local municipalities, kind of our competition, if you will, in the area, are our friends within the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And the slide that's in front of you right now just gives a really good snapshot of where we stand in terms of in relation to these other municipalities. I will tell you this, at the time, back in 2006, we were well above many of the municipalities around here. Since that time, our impact fees have come into much more in line with those other municipalities. So if you were to increase this current impact fee by 3.5%, it would go from $2,189 to $2,266. So a roughly $76 increase. So that's just a brief synopsis there. We are in line with other municipalities. We're actually, there's certain municipalities that are over us, and Highlandville is one of them as well. I use there's a really good tool on the Springfield Builders Association, Home Builders Association, that allows you to do a comparison of the cities and kind of look apples to apples on those impact fees, which is very helpful. But if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Steve can answer them. Mr. Childers?
Just one more point. I know that it's not reflected on this chart, but I did talk to the city administrator of Republic the other day, and you know there's a lot of growth taking place in Republic, and Republic is actually going to be, I don't know the exact number, but they are going to be putting somewhere between a $26 and a $30 million sewer bond on their ballot, either in April or August. And so you are likely to see the green bar for Republic increase and catch up even more with where Nixa and Ozark are. That is if their voters pass to make those improvements. But as much growth as they're having, I'm sure they're, hopefully they'll have that done. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that even though that doesn't show that now, if that passes this year, that will be going up.
All right, board, any comments before we open this to the public? I would like to just make a comment, not for or against, but I know in years past, for those of you who have been on the board for several years, you've known that some years we have passed this and some years we have not. Usually it's been a discussion as how competitive we are with our neighbors and how it might help us or hurt us in our residential development. I know that that may be a concern to some. I know that when we issued the bonds, that we had to have a revenue stream to pay them back, and this was one of the things that was included in that. Made the bonds to where we could sell them. That was a 3.5% increase every year. I think we're strong enough financially now to do that without it, but that's not necessarily a suggestion that we do that. So just wanted everybody to kind of be up to speed with where we were and see if there are any questions that any of the board has of staff about that before we go ahead and open it to public comment.
I have a quick question, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
So, and for Jeremy or Steve, so if this continues 3.5% every year, every other year, are we going to pay off? Are we retiring the debt faster?
You know, I wouldn't say it's going to be exponentially quicker. I mean, when you really look at it, let's just take single family, for example. If you had 200 single family building permits in a given year, the additional 3.5% only equates into 15,330 additional revenue dollars. So, you know, that's not a lot to really put towards the principal. So I don't think that the years of expediting is largely based on directly the this particular 3.5% increase. The majority of the revenue comes from the user fees.
There's another side of that too, Mr. Poston, and I don't know all of the details unless we had the details of the bond issuance here. But whenever you issue bonds, they have prepayment penalties. You can't pay them back sooner than what you agreed to, because the investors have the right to look towards getting a certain return for a certain period of time. So there are some provisions in there, but I think to answer that question exactly would require some investigation. But my recollection is that there are going to be some limits as to what we can do. And then what Mr. Childers said, it's probably not going to provide that much additional revenue anyway. So it may just be a matter of perspective in the community. But that's, any further comments from the board? Mary Edna, yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say that provision is more about keeping you able to make those bond payments. The bondholders want you to have the ability to make those payments. And I think that that increase is built in there just so that your ability is there more so than paying the bonds off early. Those schedules are set up. And some of those bond issues do increase, the payments increase. It's not like a car note where it's the same amount for 5 years. Those payments do increase some, but that increase is still more about just keeping you solvent enough to make those bond payments.
All right, let me ask you a question. Now, in your opinion, is this increase necessary to be able to make the payments?
I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary. We have a balanced budget you just adopted, and you could see that all of those funds had some surplus at the end. So I would say we're not in any danger of defaulting on whether you make this increase or not. It would increase your balance at the end of the year if you make that increase, if we meet all of our budget obligations.
Okay, Mr. Poston, it looked like you had a question before she did.
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay, any other comments from the board or questions? All right, I'd like to open the formal public hearing to see if there's anybody in the public or on Zoom that's not on the board that would like to have any questions or make any comments. Anybody out there? I only see one, but Mr. Galloway, you still have a question?
Yes,
Can't hear you. Okay, there you go.
Yes, I did. I had my hand up earlier, but I know there's a lot to look at. I had a question for Mary Edna. Did she go?
Mary Edna?
You can hear me.
I think she's.
I'm here.
Okay. I listened to you carefully. You said in response to Rick's question whether it's necessary to have this increase, you said it's not absolutely necessary. It was pretty strong terms and a pretty high standard. Do you have a recommendation either way for the board on whether to allow an increase or?
No, I really would not say I have a recommendation. Of course, I always like to see higher income because that's what I do. I like to have more money in the bank, but I wouldn't. I think that we will be able to make our bond payments. Our budget definitely provides for that. And as I said, we have a healthy balance projected for the 2021 budget. So again, if you adopt this increase, you'd have a healthier balance, but it's not necessary that you adopt it in order to make those bond payments.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Mr. Galloway, I apologize for not seeing your hand at the appropriate time. So I'll sure be glad when we get back to an open room and we're sitting next to one another. All right, going back to the public hearing, any comments from the public about this? Okay, if not, I will close the public hearing and we will hold this over to the next meeting in February. Ms. Alderman, Bill 3222.
I move that we place Bill 3222 on its first reading by short title and description only.
Motion made by Alderman Alder and seconded by Alderman Poston to put Bill 3222 on its first reading. All in favor? Ms. Galloway?
An ordinance of the City of Ozark, Missouri, authorizing the city to enter into a contract with the State of Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services for child care services.
Okay, I'm going to ask Ms. Payne to explain this, either make the staff comments.
Hi. So basically this will be reimbursed for child care. If we don't go through this process, it won't allow for child us being reimbursed by the state. We do this for a lot of.
Go ahead.
My mask is really protected, so you can't hear anything.
Hi, is that better, Heather? Okay. So basically, this will allow us for reimbursement for childcare. Right now, if you don't go through this process, the state can't reimburse you for maybe like foster or low income or something like that. We can't get any of that funding without this contract. So this basically allows for them to be able to refund us so that when the parents can't pay, that this will allow that to be paid for them.
All right, any questions from the board?
And this will be specifically for our after-school program. The summer camp program might have to come forward, but again, it's another form, so we'll have to go through that process. So this is strictly for the program that picks kids up from school and brings them here afterwards until 6 o'clock, and they stay in our childcare program.
Okay, any further questions? All right, if not, why, we will hold this over to the first meeting in February as well. Oh,
Bruce,
man, I'm not ignoring you. Go ahead, sir, please.
Now I'm starting to develop an inferiority complex. So
We've been there before a couple of years ago. Please don't do it again. All right, I apologize.
no, don't worry about it. I just, for people who might view this later, I know there's not many members of the public watching, and we're talking about the parks after school program and ability to help lower income families afford our parks after school program. Is that what it was, Samantha?
That's correct. It's just for our after-school program. For a lot of times it will be low income or foster. A lot of like foster programs won't take it unless we have this contract. So if they're fostering the kids, then we can't do it without this contract.
Okay.
Or
Thank you.
the family would be responsible for it. It wouldn't be state reimbursed.
Thank you.
All right, I'm looking closely. Is there anyone else on the board that would have a comment? Anyone from the public? All right. If none, we will hold this over to the first meeting in February. All right, there are no second reading bills. So, Mr. Childers, your report.
There's nothing else to add. Remember, we do have a Board of Alderman breakfast meeting this Thursday at 8:30. That'll be via Zoom. Ms. Payne will send out the Zoom invite, if she hasn't already, to the Board of Aldermen to be on the breakfast meeting. So that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Smith has submitted a written report, planning and development. Any questions of him? All right, and Ms. Payne has submitted a written report for the Parks Department. Any questions of her? All right, I have no COVID updates. We do have a closed session on real estate. So do I hear a motion to, Mr. Schaefer? Yes. You're muted, sir.
I had spoken to Steve briefly by text earlier today. I wanted to inquire as to the status of the downtown project as far as the county goes with the sidewalks. I understand from what I can read and hear from others that the county's not going to do the sidewalks at this time, but do we have an idea of when the future might be, when they might do the sidewalk work?
I think the county has, the intention of moving forward with their interior sidewalk project. I know that they have reached out to our public works director and asked for a copy of our standard construction details as it pertains to the proper way to build public sidewalks in the city. So that would lead me to believe that they're getting ready to maybe evaluate what the cost of that would be, and maybe prepare construction drawings and maybe go out for bid. But I don't have an exact idea. I just know they've requested that information. We've provided that information to them, and hopefully we can continue to work with the county and coordinate our times on the construction so that maybe all of it can be done at the same time. I don't know, but that's the only update I have.
Well, who on the behalf of the city is dealing with who on behalf of the county? Who's talking to who?
They reached out to our public works director,
All
Jeremy
right.
Parsons,
So
and that's where all of the design guidelines are in our public work documents, and all the design guidelines are there.
Great.
And so I know that I believe that request was made by the facility manager of the county. So they're communicating. We've worked with them on that department on many different projects and things, and so that's who the information was provided to.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Mr. Poston.
Yes, sir. I had two quick things. One for Ms. Galloway. Amanda, I know that you had a little individual outreach effort once before with our homeless population. Do you know what happened to them? Do you know if they've sheltered somewhere? I haven't seen anybody in a while.
I don't have an update on the status of any homeless individuals unless they're in the pretrial conference program through the court. That's how I communicate with them. But I would be happy to send an email to the organization that handles any homeless services in Ozark.
I know we had talked about this before. We've had a handful that, that we would see in the spring and summer. And I didn't know if they had just migrated somewhere. I didn't want anybody stuck under a bridge somewhere. I was curious.
I don't have an update, but it looks like the chief might.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we do have homeless people in the city that we deal with routinely. I'm not exactly sure the specific individual or group of individuals you're talking about, but we have contact with our regularly or more permanently housing misplaced individuals, and we continue to try to provide them resources, but unfortunately those resources are in Springfield, and oftentimes they're not willing to go to Springfield. So but we do the few ongoing homeless individuals that we know of in our community. We regularly do reach out to them, make contact with them, and see if we can provide them with any services.
I appreciate you doing that, Chief. And I just had one more comment, and I know that we'll have more time for this down the road, but I don't know, I was kind of sad today to see Alderman Smith and Alderman Schaefer not have their names on a ballot. Man, I really appreciate you both. I thank you for everything you've done, and I'm going to miss you guys.
Agreed. All right, any other comments? All right, do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman Schaefer, go into closed session. Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Smith,
Aye.
Alderman Flores,
Aye.
Alderman
Alder, did you say me?
Alder.
Yes. Yes, aye. Aye, sorry.
Okay, Alderman Galloway,
Aye.
Alderman Schaefer,
Aye.
aye votes, motion carries.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.